Sad Mood. Written by urban fiction author Kennedy Brown. Publishing by EmmaParaLeeInc. Sharla Reed has been the perfect woman in every manner. She married her high school boyfriend Donnelly straight out of high school, immediately taking a job at a local optical contribution company, Best Wear Lenses. In order to put Donnelly through school, he is forever changing his major and Sharla is forever pregnant, yet with 3 children she manages to keep order. Career mother of Daylin, Zenobia and Trey, she supports Donnelly through his many indecisions, and money is tight until Donnelly seems to finally buckle down and becomes Comptroller at Hamilton and Associates as a chief loan officer, and the money rolls in. However, it is more to his benefit, and suddenly after 17 years of marriage and a midlife crisis, enter Chrystal Pearson 20 years younger than Donnelly, a younger version of Sharla. Soon Sharla finds herself being asked for a divorce as Donnelly leaves his wife and kids, and seemingly trades Sharla in for a newer model. Suddenly Sharla finds herself lost, sad, and broken, and suddenly in a world of trouble, possibly enough to last a lifetime. Prologue. What could have been? Circa 1985. Chiquita and I were debating whether or not to attend her cousin Tori's birthday party in Fairmont. Truth be told, it had been way overdue for me to get out and enjoy myself. My boyfriend, Ricky, was away at basic training with the Army Station Fort Jackson in Columbia. He had 3 more weeks away, but what worried me is the fact that when he first left, oh Lord, my daddy thought I was super stupid, crying over his pic while listening to Sam Cooke sing Send Me Some Loving. I was gone. Just gone with sadness. However, after the 2nd week, I began to adapt, and now I hear Sam Cooke singing Another Saturday Night. And I ain't got nobody. But I knew I would be in trouble if I heard, I'm gonna forget about you. Tori's cousin's Donnelly is home from school and visiting. It's funny that Ricky and his cousin are never in the same room at the same time. For them to supposed to be close like brothers. Chiquita said out of nowhere. I had seen Donnelly once in the 2 years Ricky and I had been dating, and I wasn't impressed one way or the other. I mean, my granny always taught her granddaughters that it is not our place to communicate with our friend's spouse unless it was an emergency. Too bad she didn't include family into that speech. Yeah, I replied, they are 2 very different guys. Donnelly is too quiet and homely, at least in my eyes. Chiquita said, no girl. He works out. And good God, he is built like an Adonis. Aren't you engaged? I asked. She giggled. Well, you aren't. And she suddenly went quiet. Well, I don't see I anytime soon. At least not with Ricky. Oh, do tell. Besides, you just want me to dump Ricky. You never liked him. I mused. It was true, my sister never liked me with Ricky for one reason. He wasn't great shakes publicly. He was an introvert and had all the markings self-esteem and need not to the point of being rude, but more like aloof. In fact, looking back now, it was Ricky being a boring, and other than basic training, he had no goals. And that was what got me all into his cousin Donnelly. And soon it was all over with Ricky and HS boring lifestyle. Too bad I seemingly switched the warlock for the devil. And resided in his hell long enough to work and put him through school. While pregnant with our children, I bought his clothes and paid all of his student fees, knowing if I were patient it would pay off. We would make it to the big time, and we did. Only I was traded for a newer model, who gladly tried to reap the reward of what I had sown. Wow! The endorphins kicked in just as I reached the house. I took out my key. I had it made a few years ago, but since spending 6 months in a motel, while it was being uninhabited due to workers fixing a crack in the foundation. However, that was all just a ruse for my husband to pick a fine time to have a midlife crisis. Feeling we married and started a family too soon. He wanted to find himself. Instead, he found a younger, unattached version of me. And now, just like that, my life is hers. And now he is trying to make everything out to be my fault. I find my key and surprisingly it still works. I walk slowly. Still familiar with the structure of the home. I pass by the nursery. Awaiting the arrival of a baby has never been Donnelly's thing when we were married. In fact, the year before he left me, I was expecting our 4th baby. But he hit the roof. And me. In fact, I miscarried. But he apologized profusely and tried to placate me with gifts and a trip to New York. But after his guilt wore off, he left me and the family we built. The career I worked so hard to put him through school to get. I slowly pushed the door to the master bedroom, and there they lay. My husband, and the younger woman he left me and our kids for. Sleeping peacefully. Pow. Pow. Now they will sleep forever. And although my ass is gonna be in trouble, At least I don't ever have to witness the happily ever after I never got. And they thought they would have? Daylin. Mama. What's so funny? Have you been drinking? I asked as I glared at the blinking clock which read 2:30 am. Ugh. No baby. I am not your father. Now he was the drunk of this family. Mom howled in laughter. Oh, could hear the music playing in the background. Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up, and it sounded like Mom was shuffling and dancing in her seat. Mom had been sad and depressed earlier, when O had spoken with her. My dad and his new wife Chrystal had just announced they were having their first child together. As his eldest daughter, I had mixed emotions as did my siblings. Mom, well, she did the norm. She took to her bed. So now this upbeat manner had me puzzled. Well, enough about Dad. I began. You got that right. Mom held, cutting me off. Anyway. Why are you out this time night, Mom? The house will be complete this week. Soon you will be on your feet and maybe you can let Dad go, Mom. It's over. You damn right it's over. I just shot the bastard and his plaything too. And I feel better than the day before I even met his trifling ass. Mom cackled. Whoa. Mom. What? I said, bolting upright, fumbling out of bed, looking for my keys only to find Dad's house key missing from the keyring. Yet and still Mom has always had a devilism prankster. But lately she has become detached from reality, such as the fact Daddy divorced her, and he is remarried and his new wife is 6 weeks pregnant. So whatever she has told you is the truth, at least her truth. Dad left us for a young woman named Chrystal. Funny thing is Mom is the one who introduced them. Well, sort of, it had been her idea for him to get a receptionist and boy did he ever. She also bore an uncanny resemblance to Mom. Dad left us. Yes, left us because we rarely see him. He does however pay $12,000 a month to Mom, but after he met Chrystal he was gone. And Mom has never been the same again. I went down the hall to the guest room where my mom's friend/roommate was sleeping. I shook his shoulder. Drake. Mom called talking and giggling but claimed she just killed Dad and Chrystal. He bolted upright and quickly grabbed his priest collar off the nightstand. He quickly jumped into his pants, not even caring that I was standing in the room. Daylin, you stay here. I am going next door to get Kirksey to dash over there. You know Sharla has a dark sense of humor. You just go back inside with Zen and Trey. Call me if your mom shows up, he said, racing out the door. Yet not as quickly as the racing o' my heart. My throat developed a tightness, but I had to wake Trey so I could give him the news before we woke Zen, who just recently had surgery to remove her appendix. Trey is the only boy and the youngest, but since Dad began acting all new, Trey was now the man of the household. And if Mom is really serious, Trey is now the patriarch. But first I would wait for Drake to call back. His wife Tessa was out of town and they had been living with Mom until their house was repaired from a fire. Still, I felt the need to call her, so I picked up the phone, but before I could dial her, Trey had stumbled into the room. Dre, it's the police. They said Dad is dead. And so is Chrystal. And Mama did it, he stammered before throwing up everywhere.